Okay, for today's video, I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about what I do when I pull a snake out to clean, and some of my basics I go by when pulling them out. But what I'm going to pull out today is it's a goldenchild reticulated python. He's a male. He's probably 13 feet. His name's Moses. Some of these snakes in here, I can reach right in and grab them, no problem at all. With, of course, whenever I do this, I do with clean. I don't make sure I don't have any kind of feeder smells on me, rats, rabbits, and this and that. But some of these snakes, I can reach right in and grab them. Some of them, I don't want to do that because they're going to bite. So this particular one right here, he's one of those that he gets pretty wound up when you're pulling him out of the cage. I don't know if what it is about him, but if he just doesn't like to come out or what. But lately he's been a little more grumpier too, because I think he's kind of in breeding mode. So he's been off food for quite a long time. He hasn't eaten consistently, probably 8 months. I think about 3 weeks ago I gave him a rabbit or something and he took it. So he's kind of hitting his feeding days here and there a little better. So, but this guy, probably what I'll do is pull the water bowl out first, get that out of the way where he doesn't splash around, because sometimes he gets to banging around in there. And then if I have to, I'll use one of my hooks. So now there's quite a few different hooks out there on the market. People make them out of golf clubs. But the hook I like and what I like to use, there's fiberglass with I don't know what kind of material this is. It's some type of plastic, but this hook, it's from Animal Equipment by Stoney. So the website's aestoney.com, and this particular hook it's called actually the model, I guess you'd say, is it's a 5-footer, and it's the polygaboona model. It's pretty good size. I like these because they got a pretty thick area right here for handling the snakes. But another thing, all the cages, this stack of cages in particular, they're made by Animal Plastics. The website is apcages.com, and this particular model of cage is a T25. It's 6 foot wide, 18 inches tall, and about 30 inches deep, and it's got sliding glass. I think you can get this model with sliding glass doors or the sliding plastic doors. Also, you might be able to get a swinging door version also, but I like the sliding glass because or sliding doors, because you can open the cage just slightly, just enough to throw a feeder item in there or stick a hook in there to redirect the snake and whatnot. And also, when you're putting the snake back in, usually most of these snakes, when I put them back in their cage, I can just stick their head in there and they just, they automatically go in. Some of them just like to be in their cage. They like the small spaces. So, but anyway, also the bedding, it's not really bedding, but I use a craft paper, and I order this stuff on rolls through Amazon. It's the roll I get is 36 inches wide, and I think it's about 700 feet long. So what I do with this paper is I've measured the depth of the cage, and I'll cut down the roll to the depth of the cage, and then my paper, I've got a little a rolling cutter. So you put the roll on this cutter, you pull out as much paper as you need, and you lift it up and tear it. So I've got a couple of marks on my floor where I'll pull a sheet of paper out, just the exact length of what I need for the cage. It's about an extra inch long, so when I put the paper in, I'll push one edge all the way up against to one side of the cage, and then the other side will have a little piece that I fold up. So you'll see that here after a little bit after I get the snake out and put him in the tub. Some of these snakes, they like to soak. I'll pull them out. I'll take them and immediately put them in the tub, in a bathtub of warm water, and they'll stay in there as long as I leave them in there. Some of them do not like to soak at all whatsoever. I'll put them in there and they'll shoot right back out. These two right here, the one down here and this one, they like being in the water, and they'll stay in there for hours. Some of these others, there's a few others in here that Sometimes they'll soak, sometimes they won't, but so we'll get started here. Usually with this snake, it stinks in there bad too. The last time he peed and pooped in there, and it smells pretty bad. Mainly it smells like an ammonia smell. But I've got to kind of keep an eye on this guy because he'll shoot across and kind of gets wild with me sometimes. But that's just his personality. I've kind of, over time that I've dealt with him, I kind of know what to do with this guy to get him out of his cage. So. Once you get him out, he's not too bad. He's a stinky old snake. All right, buddy. So this is Moses. He's high strung too. Usually after a little bit, he'll calm down. He's a workout. Hey, buddy. It's me. It's okay. Whew. There you go. That boy. He's a beautiful snake. He's big too. He's strong, fast. You don't act like this when you're pulling them out. Usually after so long, I can take him out, drape him around my shoulders, and he'll squeeze down on me and he'll stay there. So, I'm out of breath. I'm not in too good a shape. You get your cardio in working with this guy. But here he is. I love this pattern, iridescent pattern. It's absolutely beautiful. Usually when I'm handling snakes, I kind of don't want to let him get a coil around you, because he'll coil around you and squeeze. It's not a feeding response, that's just what he does to hang on to me. But let's see if we can get a close-up of his face. Yeah, be still, bud. There you go. Sometimes snakes react differently to how they're handled. Usually when I try to handle these, I try to not restrain him. Try to restrain him as little as possible, especially around the head. It seems like the more you grab around their neck and their head, just behind their head, the more they don't like it. Sometimes you'll get a negative reaction out of them. So, here he is. This guy, I kind of try to let him do what he wants to. Usually, if he gets out, he tries to go up. Tries to go up and get on top of a cage. There's been a couple times. I've got another video where he pushed a glass open on his cage and went up to the top and wedged himself between the cage and the ceiling when I had a different cage stack. It probably took me about 20 minutes to get him out. So sometimes with some of these snakes, I don't make eye contact with them. This one, sometimes when you do make eye contact with them, sometimes they don't like it. Especially, I know there's some of you people that have some of the baby snakes, you look at them, they'll lock onto your eyeballs, and if you get close enough, that's where they strike. They go towards your eyes. See, now he's calmed down, and he'll stay in this position as long as I stand here, as long as I can tolerate holding him like this, because he is pretty heavy. So hopefully you can see that in the camera. I'll back up. He's calmed down. So here in a moment, I'm gonna go put him I'm gonna go put him in the bathtub, and he'll stay in there. Usually he'll stay right in there as long as I leave him in there. I'll come back, clean this cage out, change out the paper, wipe it down, and Fill his water bowl up, wipe the water bowl out. When I use to clean the cage after I've lifted the paper out, I just I've got a bucket full of hot water, a splash of Clorox bleach in there, and a little bit of Dawn dish soap, and then a white hand towel. So I like using the white towels because when they get soiled up or they get dirty with poop or pee or whatever it is on them, I can throw them in the washing machine and bleach them real good, and they usually come clean pretty good. So okay, we're gonna go put them in the bathtub. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I've also got a garden hose hook up here in my house. I've got a real flexible hose I've got from Home Depot that collapses when you let the water out of it. And it's really flexible and it works really well. So I was using it earlier to wash some other stuff out. But I'm going to purge it, get some cold water in it. So I've got this little hose here. This hose fixture I got from Home Depot. I like this one because you can pull the trigger, and when you pull the trigger, it clicks on, it stays on until you turn it back off. And it's got several different settings. So the one I like to use is the garden. So you get a stream of water that's pretty light, and I'll use that stream to fill my water bowls up. This garden hose, what's it called? The pocket hose. I think it's 50 foot long. When you let all the water out of it, it shrinks back down until, I mean, you can wad it up and get in a little space you can put it in like a large Tupperware container, but this hose is really nice because it's real flexible. It's got a canvas, some sort of like a canvas layer on the outside. And then also I put a little valve on the end of the hose where I can just turn this valve off in case I need to take the handle off. So, okay. Sometimes I leave the glass on, sometimes I leave it off. For today I'm going to take it off. Another thing I've started so I can kind of keep track of when these animals have eaten, I've gotten some wet erase markers. So when a snake eats, I can just write right on its cage door what he ate or she ate, and then the date of when it ate last. So yeah, I'm just peeling this paper out. Sometimes if it gets dry in here, the paper will stick to the cage bottom, so I'll just take it and maybe spray a little water in there, and that softens it up and it comes right out. I'm going to scrape all this out. I'll take my bucket of hot water and just squeeze a little bit of water. Well, depending on how much paper's stuck in there, I might not wring out all the water of the rag, and I'll squeeze out some in the cage to help soften everything up. And each one of these cages, I use radiant heat panels. So every cage has its own radiant heat panel, and every cage has its own thermostat and probe. So I can regulate the temperature of every cage. So some people like belly heat, and then some people like the radiant heat panels. So I personally like the radiant heat panels for these cages because it brings the entire temperature of the cage up to whatever temperature you want, so the snake can bask under the panel. Also, with the exception of the bottom cage, each cage, the cage above, there's another panel right directly below it. So The snakes do get belly heat. Heat goes up. So for this cage right here, you get some heat that comes up from the cage below from its heat panel. So they do get some belly heat. And the panels I use are they're made by a guy up in New York, and they're called Pro Products. And the website is pro-products.com, I believe. And that's the guy who I go through. So for the T25 animal plastics cage, each cage has the panel model it's a pH 125. So each one of these panels cost, I think they're $139.99 per panel. So, and these panels are sized just so that if you do have a failed thermostat or a malfunctioning thermostat that sticks on, the panel won't produce enough heat to cook your snake, even if it stays on 24 hours a day. So, I think a lot of people that have quite a few snakes will check on them every day. So, it's always good to check on them anyway. But so usually when I wipe my water bowls out, I'll wring my rag up real good, and I'll take some bleach water and just wipe the water bowl out. Every time I've cleaned cages, I don't wear any kind of gloves or anything. Some people are they're kind of worried about that. A lot of people wear rubber gloves and stuff. I've never bothered with doing that. I'll get right in there and get dirty. I've never had a problem with it. With cleaning a dirty cage, get my hand in the pee, get my hand in the poop. I'll just grab the stuff and get it cleaned out. Same with rats. I breed rats. I've never worn any kind of gloves or anything. Actually, the only time I've worn a protective barrier, I had a snake regurgitate a rabbit after the rabbit was in its belly for about 3 days, so that was pretty nasty. That's one of the nastiest smells. I took a trash bag and stuck my hands in a trash bag and used that trash bag like a rubber glove to scoop that rabbit up. But it was really nasty because the thing, it pretty much fell apart when I picked it up, that dead rabbit. It was just so bad I had to get a breath of air before I walked in the room, held my breath, and it still stunk bad. So anyway, here's this paper. I cut the width of this paper, the depth of it, or whatever you want to say, is the exact depth of the cage. And then the length of this paper is just long enough where it's just about an inch, maybe 2 inches longer than the inside of the cage. So I'll slide it in one side, get in there nice and flat, and start it out with my hand and go up against the one edge and just put a crease in the edge down there. And the same thing with this other piece of paper. Use 2 layers. And I'll just put my fold or the crease on the other side. So I'll get it in here nice and flat, slide it over, crease it like that. That's that. Take my water bowl, stick it in here. This is what I like about this garden hose. I'll just do this, pull it up. So right now I've got all these cages upstairs in my house, but eventually I plan on finishing half my basement and building a snake room down there. So once I build that, it'll have enough room to do all my cages. So I'm probably going to have 12 8-foot cages and about 12 6-foot cages, at least 6 4-foot cages, and 3 racks, hatchling racks, and also I'll have an incubator down there. And it'll all be controlled on its own thermostat at the room temperature. So let's get this back in here. There we go. Some glass. Sometimes before I put this glass in there, I'll wring the rag out like just before I clean the water bowl, and I'll wipe the cages down. So there you have a nice clean cage. Okay, so I'm gonna go grab this snake and I'm gonna put him back in here. So I'll be right back. Sometimes these snakes are very hard to hang on to when they're wet. Get in there, buddy. If you stick them in there, they'll go right in. There you go, bud. I stuck the towel in there. Hopefully it'll dry his belly off enough to where he won't drag the paper and mess the paper all up. Oh, and also one other thing I do, the humidity in here is pretty low in this particular room, so I think the humidity runs about 30%. So before I put the animal back in the cage, I've got a pump-up sprayer. You get it? So I've got a little bitty 1 gallon pump-up sprayer I got from Home Depot. They're cheap. They're probably, I think they're about $10. They're under $20, but I'll pump this thing up, fill it up. So, and then I'll put a little bit of spray in here. Get the humidity up. Some snakes don't like that when you spray them with cold water. I'll try to spray the sides of the cage. So there you have it. That's a little bit into what I do when I clean a cage. So I think I've covered everything I want to when he's back in the cage. So usually on cleaning days, I'll go through everything in here. I've got these 4 cages right here. I've got another 4 cages to the just to the right of the camera where my phone's set up, and then to the left of the phone or the camera, I've got a stack of 4-foot cages, and then of course this little rack right here. So hopefully here within 4 weeks, middle of January, I've got another 4 T25 animal plastics cages I'm going to pick up, and then also they'll be white with sliding glass, and then also I've got a 15 shelf hatchling rack coming in, and then 2 more racks just like this one, except it'll have closed sides, it'll be white, and it'll be 10 tall. So that's another thing I'm kind of looking forward to. I've got the panels for the new cages. Also, I don't have it set up yet, but I've got another 4 T70 animal plastics cages, which are 8-footers. But anyway, all right, well, have a good day and have a Merry Christmas.